Hello, learning partners. This is Sarah. Just want to record you a little video about how to do the golden line post for Brain Rules. And I want to tell you, I'm really enjoying reading the various activities you're doing. You guys are doing great. The learning community is off to an awesome start. If anything is confusing, if you have questions about anything, of course, just email me, just right away. There's also a discussion board on our Canvas. Here, let me show you, where you can post questions to other learning partners in the class. So let me just go to our Canvas. So just to, let me actually just say, yeah, let me go to that first. So yeah, and the discussion. So this is one discussion, this learning partners, helping learning partners. This is a place where you can post any question you have, and you just make a post about it and other people can chime in. I really want to see us doing that for each other. Like, you can ask each other questions, you can ask me things, but oftentimes other classmates, other learning partners can also answer things. What I'm also doing on this discussion board is I have kind of an FAQ, frequently asked question. And so if there's a question being asked, then I put it in there because it might be a question that a lot of people had. Like, one person asked a question about the 144 hours if you're going for an A. They asked, does reading a novel outside of the class count for that? Absolutely. Anything and everything you do, first of all, keep track of your time. I'm going to be uploading a video in the next couple of days that show you how to fill out that weekly log. That'll be due Sunday. So don't worry about that yet, but just again, keep track of all the time you're spending reading, posting. And I always say start with the required assignments, the ones that I have here in the modules. But once you're done with those, you can do other things. Anything that has to do with reading, thinking, writing, learning, as long as it's not an assignment for another class, you can count it. You just have to have some evidence where you show me something active. So maybe you do a T to T, a talk to the text, using another class's book. You could do that. You could count that. Or novel or newspaper, magazine, websites you're reading, you could count that. So back to the topic of this video, which is the golden lines. So, so many of you, so hopefully you've ordered Brain Rules now, but remember I did put the first two chapters, a PDF of the chapter 1, and then right here there's a PDF of chapter 2. So those ones are for you to just until your book arrives. And if you, so many of you have already started the T to T. I see some entries in, or I saw some assignments or some uploads that you guys made. So T to T, right, is where you're having that conversation in writing with the book you are reading. And my idea for that is you have your own text that you write on. Right now, if you don't have your text, you could just print out the PDFs I put in there, and then you can write on them. My writing's already on them too. You could do that. It will be a little easier once you have your own copy to do a T to T, a talk to the text. But this is the routine. We'll always do a T to T, and then we do a golden line discussion. Because remember in the last video I talked about yesterday, the T to T video I put in there, reading is all about being metacognitive, which means noticing what it is we are doing inside of our minds to make sense of the text. Reading is an active process where we have to be carrying out a conversation, making sense in our own minds. So T to T is a metacognitive strategy. And another strategy we will be using for every chapter after you do a T to T is called the golden line post. So let me just go to the modules again. So the golden line post, some of you already started this one, and it's okay if you didn't. And just a reminder too, right? Never, there's no there's due dates just to keep us on track. But if you do something after the due date, there's no points deducted, because everything right in this class is based on the hours you spend. So use those due dates to keep you organized and moving, but it's okay if you're late on something, it's okay. Just keep moving, progress, progress, progress. That's what it's all about. So after you do your T to T, do your golden line. So I put a explanation of that right here. And here, let me make this smaller video. So as it says, you will read the pages once, doing a T to T, and then go back through a second time to choose a golden line. So a golden line is a line of the text, or lines, sometimes it's 2 or 3, that's fine, that really stand out to you, that are powerful, that you have a lot to say about. They should be lines as well that you think are important to the meaning of that chapter and that you can relate to, and lines you think you understand well. A golden line is like, ooh, I get it. This line really stands out to me. It's important. I want to say something about that line. So what you do is, like it says, this is a discussion board. So you're going to be making your own post, and you're going to come back and respond to your other learning partners' posts. So the first thing, as it says, is copy the line directly from the text. So if you take your copy of Brain Rules and you pick whatever line it is, you type it directly, accurately with the page number. And then, as it says here, below that, the first thing you do is give what I call a straight summary. I call it a straight summary because I just mean it's just what the book is saying, but you put it in your own words. You're not interpreting it. You're not giving your opinion. You're not really doing anything except a straight summary. It's putting it in your own words. Sometimes you won't use the same words as the text, but you're not extending it. You're just summarizing it. And make sure you summarize all the parts of the line. Sometimes there's like a couple of ideas in there. So summarize them. If someone else had not read those lines and they only read your summary, they should understand those lines. You're explaining it, but you're not going beyond into interpretation. You're just saying, here's what the author said. But then below your summary, that's where you give your critical thinking. And that is where you give your perspective, your interpretation. You'll say things like why you chose this line, why you think it's important, and you want to always relate to it. So I want to see the word I here. When we're doing critical thinking and talking about our perspective, we want to really speak from our perspective. So I gave you some, like it says, use the word I, and I gave you some potential, meaning possible. You don't have to use these, but these are some possible ways you might start some of those sentences. It might be like, I agree or I disagree with, and you say the idea because of my experience, then you say it. So critical thinking it's backing up our thinking, explaining how or why we think the way that we do. Or you might say like, I relate to this line because of, or this line makes me think about, or I connect with this idea. Any of these are possible starters. And then you're going to go back later after you make your post, or before, it's fine too, and you're going to respond to at least 2 of your learning partners, 2 of your classmates here, where you comment on their line and you get into a discussion. The whole idea of a discussion board is that this is a place for us to have a conversation. We're not in the class together, so we have to have a conversation through our writing. And this is the chief way that we will be doing that. So I gave an example, which you'll see right down there. So I chose a line from chapter 1, and I'll just read it. Why did I want to spend time walking you through our brain survival strategies? Because they aren't just part of our species' ancient history. They give us real insight into how humans acquire knowledge. We improvise off a database, thinking symbolically about our world. We are predisposed to social cooperation, which requires constantly reading other people. Along with the fundamental performance envelope, these concepts determine at the most fundamental level how our brains work. So it's kind of complicated. He's a brain scientist. So when I do a summary, I need to put that in my own words. But again, I don't change it and I don't interpret it. I just need to say what he's saying, but explain it from the way I would using my words. So here's how I explained that. I think that Medina, the author is Medina, I think that Medina is saying that it is important to study how our brain evolved to survive, as that gives us a real view of how our brains work and learn now. And I got that because that first sentence, he's saying that right there. He's like, why are we talking about the evolution of our brain? Because studying the evolution of our brain gives us real insight or understanding about how humans get knowledge. So I said that. He's saying it's important to study because that gives us a real view of how our brains work and learn now. Our brains store information. I got that where he said we improvise off a database. So our brains store information, which we use adaptively, meaning like we use it and we shift and change. We use that, we use what we've stored to then adapt, to think in symbols where something can stand for other things. So he's basically, right, he's saying that, we use symbols. That's how we do reading, is that we've figured out this way to convey meaning through words, through the sounds, the letters, and then that's how we have symbols to then communicate with each other, say for language. So that I went on a little further with my summary, because he's talking about here, this thing, we're predisposed to social cooperation. He has that in his quote. So what I said he's saying is that we need social cooperation, which requires us to understand other people. So, because he's saying like our brains evolved to have social cooperation. We need to understand what someone else is thinking. These features make our brain work in a particular way. So that's my summary, where I try to take what he says and make it a little more understandable. I try to use my words. It's complicated. Like this chapter, all of these chapters, you may need to read them and dig in several times. And if you have questions as you're reading, you can also, maybe I'll make a discussion board for that too, where we could post questions we're having or we're struggling with the text. So I put my summary, what I think he's saying up there, and then I go into my thinking, my critical thinking. So I chose these as my golden lines because I think they're summing up the most important points that Medina makes in the introduction. I thought if I could grab and understand and hold on to this central concept, that I will be getting the main idea of the research about our brains. So I'm talking about why I chose it. When I'm reading, I look for the main ideas boiled down to a point I can repeat and remember. The central idea of the book, from what I can tell now, is that our evolutionary adaptations, so meaning how our brain changed, right, as we evolved, storing information, solving problems, using symbolic thinking, and cooperating with people, have shaped our brains in specific ways. So as our brains adapted and evolved, that changed our brains. So then I wrote, I think this is so important to understand because understanding these points allows us to take better charge of our own learning and brain function. I'm saying like if we understand our brains, we can do better with them. To me, especially as a teacher, so again, I'm relating it to my own experience, I think it is so important that I understand how the brain learns so that I can best design my classes to support optimal learning. So I'm relating it to myself. I understand the brain so I can help students learn. Also, as a person, I'm always trying to grow and improve how I am in the world. I want to be a happy, generous, kind, loving, and creative person who makes the best outcomes of this gift of life I have received. I believe that by learning how my brain works and doing all I can to support and leverage the power of my brain, the better life I can create. Thanks for reading my thoughts in this post. So now what my learning partners would do, if I was a student in the class, I just put this post and then people are going to come back and write back to me. They're going to tell me what they think about this post, what they think about my summary or about my critical thinking, or did they agree or disagree? You want to get a conversation going. So you'll notice Hezekiah already put one in. He picked a great line here. He summarized it in his own words right down there, straight summary. And then look he starts out with I, which is awesome. I agree, and he's relating it to his life. And Mackenzie's got one in there. So remember too, if you're ever confused about how to do an assignment, you also look at the models that other people are doing and you model it after them. Like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing there. So this is a routine. And remember also, it's not about doing it perfectly. You want to just try it. I'll give you feedback to how you do. And then I'll lastly say, that now that Hezekiah has done his post, now he'll also go back and comment on 2 other people's, at least 2. You can do more than 2, right? And remember, everything you do is counting towards your 24 hours per week. So he might come on in and he'll reply to Mackenzie and tell her his thoughts, or he'll go down to Celeste and read through hers and then reply. So this is a discussion board. It's a place to have a book comprehension discussion, but to do it online through writing. Okay, my friends, so that's how to do a golden line post. And just dive in, struggle through. Remember, productive struggle. When we struggle with something challenging, we're growing our brains. So if any of these assignments seem challenging, that's a good thing. You got to have challenge to have your brain grow. But if you get into any trouble, if you're over your head, if you're like, what's going on, reach out to me. You can go on the discussion board on that other one that showed learning partners helping learning partners. Maybe you have a question to ask other people there. Reach out for help. Just like that brain rules thing was saying, like we evolved as social cooperative beings and learners. So use that power here. All right, thanks for watching. I'll stop recording now and let me know if I can help further or any way I can help, let me know. All right, thanks learning partners.